everyone, welcome to the channel. Hope everybody's having a great day. And today I'm going to be installing a tonneau cover for my truck. I bought this off of Rough Country's website directly from them. No, I'm not sponsored by them, and I'm not getting paid by anybody to make this video. If you enjoy content like this, please consider giving me a thumbs up, comment, and share. And I need subscribers. If you like to watch content like this, us creators need all those things to continue to do this stuff. Anyway, so carrying on, let's show how it came whenever I ordered it. So hopefully this is going to be a down and dirty. I don't want to jinx myself, but hopefully this is going to be an easy install. The website said that there is no drilling that is required. I apologize for the road noise. I don't know why, but everybody loves to just lay down on it right past, going past our property. So anyway, this is the packages. It came in 2 packages. I'm assuming that this is the bars that get installed on the inside of the beds, and then this is the retractable bed cover that should get mounted at the front of the bed and then gets pulled back and forth. So yeah, I had a toolbox in the bed before, which I still have, but I'm wanting something that I can travel in, hopefully protect what I have in the bed of the truck from sticky finger people and maybe from weather and some stuff like that. So this is going to be a down and dirty install and a quick review of the product, and hopefully it works out for me. Once again, hopefully I'm not jinxing myself. So let's get at it. This is what came in my clamp box. And you have 2 drain hoses and a few little small pieces of hardware and some lubricating stuff for your sweeps. Okay, so first thing that I'm going to have a little bit of a hiccup with, they're saying that no drilling required, but I was actually kind of curious about how this was going to work. This is a drain tube. This portion of the drain tube has got 2 little nipples that stick out. They mount in the bottom of that, what I just set in the truck, and kind of turn, lock in there. And they are hoping that you have some type of hole in your bed that came factory, and this needs to go down into it. Mine does, and it is almost exactly the distance away. So they almost sent this to me. They should have sent me something like this, about 4 inches, a little bit longer. This is barely enough. And the hole in my bed, it is not, I think they are saying that this is supposed to be 3/4. Let me measure it real quick. Okay, so the holes in my bed, there's 2 big holes and a few smaller holes, and the bigger holes are 7/16, and this is closer to 5/8. So I am definitely going to have to drill enlarge those 2 holes in my bed so this will go into it. So that's going to have to be step number 1. So this end goes up here, fits in Probably gonna have to get some help with some pliers. It's pretty snug. And then this is my hole. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but I'm gonna have to drill that out. So if you can see that, there's a hole here, the nipple in it. Locked in. I'll just flip this thing over just so I can show you guys what I'm doing. One on the other side. Done. So if you can see my hose here, and here's my hole that was drilled from the factory. I don't really want to drill another hole in my bed, so I'd like to use the one that's already there. So that is barely long enough. Should be long enough, but they could have made this thing a few more inches. That didn't work. That didn't work either. Let's see if I can crawl underneath the truck and pull down on that a little bit to get it to go through. Feels like it's in there pretty good. Okay, so I most definitely could not get from the bottom and kind of pull it through. I just had to drill it out to about 5/8, and then I used a flat tip punch to kind of help guide it through a little bit. And it's pretty stretched right there, but I think it'll stay. My fuel tank is right underneath the bed, so there's no way that I could have got to that. Maybe the one on the other side. Let's go to that one. Okay, the next thing is to identify your side rails. They came in that other package. They are marked with a little tag. It says left and right. This is left and then facing towards the front of your truck. It also says in the directions that the plastic end cap goes towards the tailgate. And you need to get into the hardware bag. There is a pre-tapped hole right here in the front, and there is a hole right here in this plastic shroud. So you're going to line up that. You're going, the exploded view on your directions is basically showing it kind of from the bottom, but you're going to come up through the plastic into that pre-drilled hole. So it took a little bit to get it on there. You have to actually kind of thread this piece into your rail to get it to go through. And just for what it's worth, this is a 7/16 SAE bolt head to tighten this down. Then repeat the process on the other side. tighten them down too much yet, just in case I need to come back later and there needs to be like a little bit of give. So the next step is what it's saying. These are called a clamp grip, if you can see. And this area up here, this side here goes towards the outside of the truck, and there are reliefs cut. There's 2 of them, so you're going to use 2 on each side, one here and one here, one there, one there. There's 4 of them total, and you're supposed to, it's got little grooves, slide it up in there and then slide it down towards what it's calling the shim. All right, so a little bit of help with this part. They tell you to install these, and then they tell you to install the other portion, which actually clamps these to your rail. But then afterwards they tell you that, oh, by the way, put the 2 shorter ones towards the tailgate and the longer ones up towards the canister end. They should have mentioned that before. They told you to install these. That should have been mentioned first. FYI. Okay, so once you get the clamp grips on, make sure that you're once again using the longer ones towards the front and the shorter ones towards the back. They want you to install this. It's called the pivot arm, and to install this you will use these knobs and the barrel nuts. There's 4 of these. I'm not sure if you can see this on camera, but there's a little relief cut right here, and that slides into the relief cut and then slides down that way. So let's do this one. This little device, if you can see this hanging down here, that's what it's defining as the shim. Here's the relief cut. Slide that up, and then it goes down, so there's grooves cut in this piece of aluminum, and it slides down towards the shim. Repeat times 4. So these are a little bit difficult to get on there, but what I've noticed is if you put the back edge up on first, and then it kind of goes up and on there. Slide down. There we go. 4 done. So it's difficult to show this, to film this and do it, but this is the pivot arm, so it slides over the top of this, and then your threaded knob goes through to your barrel nut right here, and then it clamps up on the back side. So the main thing though that it says that when you're doing this is the one up towards the front, then I've got another one to do back here. The distance between this rail and the rail that's on the other side of the bed have to be even, so this will slide. So you have to make sure that your distance, and you're doing some measuring. So before you go too far, that white paper that is on the foam, before you get this too tight, you need to take that off. I thought that I could be slick, put it on here and then pull it off while it was on here, because typically with this type of stuff, that piece of foam has got a sticky edge to it. It does not in this case. It is not sticky. So you could take that white paper off. Sorry, you could take that white paper off at any time. Okay, So I got all 4 of these mounted. At least they're on there. They're not tight yet because I got to check on a few gaps and distances. But they're all 4 on there. All right, so you got a few things going on here. One thing it's wanting you to check is this distance here should be 58 and 9/16. I'm about 5/8, so I need to come in about a 1/16 here. And then also at the back, I'm exactly 58 and 9/16. And it has these measurements in the user manual, or the paperwork there. It also wants you to check your tailgate measurement. So if you close your tailgate, you need to make sure that you've got just a tiny gap here. I think it's calling in the instructions for about a 1/16, but I got a little bit more than that. That way if you slam it, it's got a little play, it doesn't strike these rails. So once again, it says to set these end caps about a 1/16 of an inch away from your tailgate in the instructions, but it does not say how to set them, because you're basically at a set distance. There's a bolt up there at the top, so you can't go any more further this direction. You can go in and out with your clamps, but you have to have a set distance between this rail and the rail over here. So when it says to set this end cap, I'm not exactly sure what they're talking about. There is a piece of foam here. I guess you can add foam to that maybe to set the distance, but it doesn't exactly tell you how to do that. Okay, not sure if you can see this or not, but I've been tinkering with this off camera for quite a while now. It wants you to get all these distances set, but then it wants you to tighten everything down. I took this thing off here because I have to get a shim in. I'm going to show you in just a second. But once you start tightening it down, it will pull this rail over, so your set distance is off then after you tighten it down. So I'm trying to figure out what it wants you to do, because it doesn't explain this very well in the manual. But what I have found is the box includes a bunch of these little white shims, and it's got a little piece of plastic that you can take off the back, and it's got a sticky. Well, there's what they're calling a preformed shim here, and on the back, I'll pull this out if you can see it or not. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there is a shim behind there. I think it's too dark for you to see. There's also one, as I'm going back, this is on the back one, there's a shim right there also. I've already added that one in. But you need to add these. I know it's really hard to see and I apologize, but you need to add these in, kind of snug it up a little bit, get your distance, so that way you know whenever you tighten this thing up, it doesn't pull it over, because it's pointless to get your distances set and then tighten this thing and it comes off. So I've had to tinker with it for a little bit off camera, but they come with a bunch of these, so just stick these in there behind those shims in between the rail and your bed rail, and that should hold it at the right distance. Also, I would recommend starting with your distances at the front, get these tight, and then work your way back. I got these bolts tightened first, and that kind of held a little bit of a set distance, and then I have one set of extra shims on each side, and then I tighten these things down real good. I'm exactly 58 9/16, which is what the instructions want you to be. The other thing is there was an extra set of washers and lock washers, and it doesn't say what to do with them, so I just placed them here on this side to help with tension, to keep those on there. And then I'm going to work my way back and get the distance in the back set. Okay, so I got this thing set. I got them all tight. I got them all spaced. And I'm exactly 58 and 9/16 at the front and 58 and 9/16 at the back. So the next thing it wants you to do is get the pull strap back. So it says to route it through here. I don't guess it really matters what it wants you to do. I think what I'll probably just do is put it right here with one of my Velcro. Just basically says so you can grab a hold of it. So the next thing it wants you to do is install what it's calling this kickstand. So basically it's just a bolt that fits through some of your bracket that's already there. I had to flip this mechanism, which it tells you you can do this in the instructions, but I had to flip this guy around 180 degrees to get this nut, because it was on this side the way it comes on this side, so I've got a little bit more pressure, because basically what you're doing is you're tightening this righty tighty lefty loosey until you get your rail flat. So I'm not worried about level because my truck's not sitting on a level spot in the yard, but what I am wanting, and I've actually got this up just a little too much, if you can see, kind of hard to see, but this is not touching and this is, so I need to go down a little bit so that's flat. I'm gonna go back just a hair. All right, so that's perfect. I'm not sure if you can see that. And then I need to go to the other side. And on this side you can tell that this needs to still come up. It is not touching quite yet. So let's adjust that. Boom, gap filled. All right, so that's level, and then it says after you do that, recheck your between the rail distances again. All right, so the next thing I want you to do is to lubricate the sweeps, so it provides you with a package. So I'm gonna go down and do that. So the next thing it wants you to do is to install the drain tubes, but I already did that. So now it wants me to install the cap. So it doesn't say how to do this in the directions, but there's a felt liner on one edge and a rubber on the other. And I'm going to put the rubber towards the cab, the felt towards the direction that the cover pulls out. All right, I'm at the end of my instructions, so let's see if it works. It could be a little bit tighter up against the tailgate. tight down here, but not down there. I wonder. So my strip here is not tight here. It is down there. So this thing actually never, it just sits in there, and the rails attached to it, and the rails get mounted to your rails. So I could probably loosen those up just a hair and slide it this way, maybe just a hair. They look pretty good along the back. Let's do that and see if I can fix it real quick. So at this point I realized that I went against what I was saying at the very beginning of the film, where when you're putting this together you shouldn't tighten everything down so you can make adjustments. As I went along I started tightening because I thought going along with the instructions that's what I probably should be doing. But as you can see, I'm going to have to pull the main roll back away from the cab, so this rubber seal will fit tighter up against the tailgate. So know that you should get everything put together firmly but loose enough that you can make some adjustments, and then when everything is said and done, then you can tighten everything down. So I've made some adjustments, but I still think I like the way it is on that side, and it's still a little shy here. You can pull a little slack out of it, but it doesn't stay because of the spring loaded. So I still think I need to come back a little bit more. I don't know if my bed is racked or if I just have this. It's most likely I just have this racked ever so slightly. So the only thing is the more you pull it back, the more you pull this flange, which is not sitting down all the way. I really think those kind of need to be pulled down a little tighter. I think I need to go back just still a little bit hair more. So whenever I did that though, I did remeasuring, and I had to put another shim. For whatever reason I lost my distance. It was 58 5/8 here, so now I'm back to 58 9/16. So let's move it back just a little bit more, and I think we're going to call it good. So I really had to tinker with this thing for a while to get the adjustments and the measurements the way I wanted it, and the fit the way I wanted it. But I eventually did. It took me a little while because every time I changed something, it changed something else, and I wanted all my measurements right and my fit as tight as it could be. But I finally got it done, and I got it to seal pretty good and got it fit good. So it leaked a little bit along the back edge, which was to be expected. But it leaked a lot. Right here, it's coming out of the... I don't think I did anything more than what a heavy downpour would have been. And it was obvious that the water filled up this here, and there's holes on the side, and it leaked out on those holes. So it was more than this drain tube could carry, and it was actually leaking from up there around that drain tube area also. So it was back here in this corner. There's a little bit of water back over here in this corner too. Once again, I wasn't expecting this to be 100% watertight, but I would like it to be 95% watertight. So I'm going to drive it and see how it holds up driving down the road, and I'll get back with you. Okay, it is the next day. So I drove about 80-mile round trip, about 160 miles total, and everything remained the same. Halfway I rechecked everything. I measured distances. Nothing changed. Everything held tight. I'm not going to have any rain in the forecast for probably over a week. Otherwise I'd go ahead and do like an actual rain test. I honestly think that the test that I did spraying it with a water hose was a little bit unfair, because I probably had a ton of water sitting up here. So then whenever I released it and went forward, every bit of that water carried into that carriage, is what I'm going to call it, the roll box up there. And then in turn, it built up inside the box, and then those hoses, drain hoses, weren't enough to carry that water. So anyway, I think it's going to hold up good. On the drive, it was a 2-lane road, so like in this area, I was averaging, 60 miles an hour. There was a little bit of vibration, but nothing excessive. There's not really a safe way to mount my camera to film while I'm driving on my truck. Otherwise, I would probably have done something like that. But it did fine. I think that it's going to work out. Open this back up. So honestly, I think that time is going to tell. Right now, I think everything's going to be fine. We'll see how everything holds up long term with use and in the weather and in the sun. A few critiques in the instructions. There could have been a little bit better on some of the stuff in the instructions of how certain things were explained. As far as how they designed some of this stuff. In this distance here, there's 2 clamps. I think they could have went with 3 on each side just to make sure. I also think that the clamps, I will probably come back and do some Loctite on those screws just so they don't back out. I will check after use and driving. I'll check the tightness on each one of these clamps. And these kickstand things, I guess is what they were calling them, which basically levels this. I've already had to kind of readjust those a couple times. So I'm not sure how well that those are going to stay. Once again, I will probably, there's the nut, keeper nut right here, if you can see it. I'm gonna probably put some kind of Loctite on it so it holds. Other than that, I think the drain hoses could be a little bit larger diameter so they can carry a little bit more water. Wouldn't hurt anything. And I honestly think that they could have come up with a way to mount that carriage. That carriage is not mounted to the truck. It has got one single kind of lightweight bolt that is mounted to the rails, and the rails are what's mounted to the truck. So in turn, the rails are holding that down. It's not really that heavy. So I think that they could have probably come up with some way to mount that, but it should be okay. And honestly, as far as the water goes, let me pull this back straight again. Let me set this down. I think that when you are going to be driving down the highway, because of the wind and moving forward, I think that even if you're driving through a downpour, I think 90% plus of whatever rainwater hits this, it's going to shed off. I think your only issue will ever be is if the truck is parked and it's a heavy downpour, then you're going to have more chance of water penetrating certain areas. But once again, I knew that, it's not going to be 100% waterproof. Even the camper shell that I used to have on my previous truck was not 100%. It honestly had more dust that would come into the back around the door than anything. But I think this will work. I think it's going to turn out pretty good. Once again, time will tell. We're going to go on a pretty good road trip. here in the next few weeks, so we'll see how it does going out there. I bought this because I didn't want to spend the money on a camper shell. I had a camper shell on my last truck and I loved it. It was awesome. It was an ARE and it was great, but those things are crazy expensive, and I honestly wasn't even sure that they could put a camper shell. I'm sure they could, but I didn't want these factory caps taken off, so I'm not sure if the camper shell would have met a good seal. And then on my previous truck, they didn't like this cap on my previous truck, so they wanted to take that off. So I'm not sure if the camper shells that they have made for this model, if you'd had to worry about that or not, but I don't want to take this stuff off, is basically what I'm getting at. So I didn't want to mess with the camper shell because of the cost and because of that. But I think this will work. This truck actually has a deep bed in it. It's pretty deep, so it'll hold a lot of stuff for a trip. I think it'll remain mostly dry, and you might want to, like, if you're really worried about it, just put your stuff in a tote or something that's going to stay dry underneath it, so you've got a double layer protection. And then as far as that's concerned too, this is pretty tight to the tailgate. I mean, nothing is 100% theft proof, but you would have to tear this up pretty good to get into it, especially if you have a locking tailgate. And if you don't have a locking tailgate, then, well, you're not going to be able to secure your stuff, because you'd be able to take the tailgate down and get in, so that wouldn't even be an option. But anyway, I think that I think this is going to work out. Hopefully it does. Okay, so if you stuck around this long in the video, I appreciate it. This video kind of ran a little bit longer than what I was wanting it to, but I was wanting to try to do as good of a job as I could on the install and provide an accurate review. So I recorded that initial install a little over 2 months ago, and I decided, you know what, there's no rush in getting this video out because I'm not exactly that great at getting videos out. But anyway, I wanted to give a good review, and I just got back from a a little over 2,000, about 2,200 mile road trip. Highway speeds, interstate speeds, weather, storms, rain. So that way I can give you guys at least a little bit better review than what I initially did. So I feel like I am 98 probably % satisfied with the purchase and everything to do with this tonneau cover. It did leak just a tiny bit on a rain, but I just made sure on those top front corners that I didn't have anything that I had, like any of my stuff, personal belongings, that I felt like it couldn't get wet. Plus back here towards the tailgate, I just had some coolers and stuff like that, which I didn't really care if they got wet. But all in all, it worked out well. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. It allowed me to take this road trip, keep all my stuff secure, keep it mainly resistant to the weather. The only real gripe that I have is that after I had it for a couple weeks, whenever I tried to retract it, it would start to grind a little bit, and it got worse, and it wouldn't retract all the way. It'd start retracting only about halfway, only retracting about a quarter of the way. So I lubricated the edges a little bit, and that helped in the tracks. And it started doing it again within a week or two, kind of grinding a little bit. So I took the cap off the main canister up there at the top towards the front, and I realized that on the right hand side, the edges of, so this is metal covered by, it's like aluminum that's covered by this fabric, but the edges are exposed, the metal along the side, and on that side it started to rub. So when it curls up in a roll, it started to rub over on that side. So I was kind of trying to figure out and troubleshoot exactly why it was doing that, and it didn't really make sense that when I was lubricating the edges, the tracks, that it would stop doing that because it's rubbing up at the front. So I think what was happening was it's binding on that edge over there, and when it binds on that edge over there, it causes the track, when it retracts, it wants to retract just a little bit more on that side than it does on this side. So then it bunches up over there and it causes it to bind a little bit. So I've just kept my tracks lubricated about once a week. I started with some silicone lubricant, and then I just started using some WD-40, and it works a little bit longer, sticks around a little bit longer, and that has helped for the most part. So to me, the grinding is just kind of an annoyance. It's kind of a petty complaint. You know, oiling it up alleviates the problem and it starts working again. So to me, it's not that big of a deal. So that's why it doesn't really affect my review of this that much. To some people, it probably would affect the review a little bit more, but I got it working again, so not too big of a deal. But like I said, everything else has worked good. These have maintained their tightness, they've maintained their gap. My only other complaint, also kind of petty, is that the decal sticker on this side is coming off. I could probably put like some super glue or something on that, but that's coming off on this side. So all in all, appreciate you guys watching the video, and give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one, guys. Thank you. So as always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. Helps the channel, helps me, keeps me motivated to continue to wanting to make videos. Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.